This podcast contains spoilers. Yibba dibba 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 dum. So if you haven't seen Fiddler on the Roof, just know that you have been warned. Oh, this podcast contains spoilers. Yibba dibba 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 dum. So if you haven't seen Fiddler on the Roof, just know that you have been very warned.
What's up, everybody, and welcome back to KFR News Radio. This is your host, Benjamin Button, along with your host, Miguel.
Me gusto. L'chaim, Benjamin.
L'chaim.
Mazel tov. How are you?
Molotov? What?
Mazel tov.
Oh, I'm doing great. How are you doing, my friend?
I am also doing pretty good, especially after that. Singing brings the spirit up, no matter how terrible
really
life
does.
is.
Especially when we're so close. Actually, I mean, now this episode is past Christmas time, but we're still kicking in the holiday season, gosh darn it.
Yes, we are.
We're doing it.
We are doing it. Speaking of doing it, how many movies did you do this week?
Oh my goodness. Let me tell you how I watched 3, including Fiddler on the Roof. So I knocked out The Mandalorian. We'll talk about that later with you in the hopes that maybe there's bright things and maybe some dark things, and that the light and the dark forces don't wash our minds of entertainment. But anyway, I started watching Anastasia the other day because I was like, you know what? Everybody's watching this right now because it finally got on to Disney Plus because I guess, was it Fox maybe, I think, made that movie? So they have acquired the rights, obviously, to Fox, and now that movie's on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Everybody's watching that. And of course, the whole time I'm sitting there watching it, I wasn't watching it. I was looking up facts about the Princess Anastasia, the Duchess Anastasia, or whatever.
Yeah. And how many women have said that they are her.
Oh, yeah.
And when in reality, she definitely died.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
And I looked up the real story about what happened and everything like that and how crazy that all was.
Yeah.
Because I heard a lot of rumors, a lot of different things. So that was very interesting to read while I was watching that very, very nice movie. And then I watched Loving this morning. It's a fantastic film. Really kind of just mind-boggling, just the hatred that was in the past and still happening today, obviously. But Jesus, man, let people love each other.
My favorite fact about Loving is that couple. For those of you who don't know, Loving is about a white man and a black woman who want to marry in the 60s or 70s. I can't remember. And the state refuses to allow that to happen. They harass them and shit.
In Virginia.
And they live in Virginia. Virginia's motto since 2 years after they won their Supreme Court ruling, they made their motto, "Virginia is for lovers." Mm-hmm. Hold on a second.
It wasn't there for a minute,
It
buddy.
wasn't there for a minute. You're like, come on, stop fooling people.
Yeah.
But that's my favorite, ridiculous fact about that. It's, it's sad, but I'm glad that, we're kind of past that for the most part. Obviously, interracial couples still experience backlash and everything from unevolved people. But
yeah. So that was a great film, and then of course watched Fiddler on the Roof, which we will further talk about.
Yes, we will. I also
you silly Willy.
I also talked about or watched the end of Mandalorian. Again, we can get into that in a minute. I have watched 17 movies this week. Just know that I am only 10 away from hitting a movie a year, so it will slow down soon.
Yep.
First one I watched is I Kill Giants, which is based off a comic book about this little girl who is paranoid. She's protecting her town from attack by giants, and no one believes in it's in the modern world, so no one believes in giants or anything, and she's just on this secret mission to protect the world from giants. and it's kind of like A Monster Calls a bit, where it's really just her grieving with something, which I won't get into for spoiler reasons. But
Yeah.
it's solid. A Monster Calls is definitely a lot better, but
I still have to watch that one too.
yeah, it's a good movie. Then I watched Johnny Mnemonic with Keanu Reeves. My favorite part about it is
Another
that
Johnny movie.
yeah, my favorite part about it is that it opens with a title card. It's going through like all these microchips and all these wires and everything, and it just says Internet 2021. So it takes place on the internet in 2021.
Yeah.
And we're very close to Internet 2021. So
Yeah, it's coming up. It's creeping right on in here.
Yeah. So on New Year's Day, I'm going to share a screenshot of that image from Johnny Mnemonic. It's a bad action movie from the 90s. That's all you need to know. It's entertaining, but it's a bad action movie from the 90s. Then I watched Juliet Naked with Rose Byrne, Ethan Hawke, and Chris McDowd. It is about this couple where the boyfriend is obsessed with this one rock star who kind of disappeared. That said rock star is played by Ethan Hawke. The girlfriend writes a bad review off of like a new release from Ethan Hawke, and Ethan Hawke emails her and says, I agree. They start off this like you've got mail type relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And it just becomes this whole thing. It's a pretty interesting movie. I enjoyed it. It's got some pretty strong acting from Ethan Hawke and Rose Byrne and Chris McDowd. None of them ever turn in a bad performance, no matter how bad the movie is. So yeah, it's a solid movie, but not one that will wow you. Then I watched Abominable. Is
it the one with Hugh Jackman?
No, that is a Missing Link, which I watched a few weeks ago. This one I thought was, I think like Little Bigfoot or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
With Channing Tatum, but it's not. It's another one with no one I've ever heard of before. And it's about this girl who befriends an abominable snowman who escaped a lab and tries to take him back to Mount Everest. And it's a kid's movie. It's cute. It's fine. Then I watched Across the Universe, which is okay. It's for those of you who don't know, it's like a jukebox musical where it's previously written songs. In this instance, it's all Beatles songs, kind of threaded through a story. It really felt forced for a lot of the songs being in there. Like a lot of the songs didn't really make sense for being in there. It's not like Moulin Rouge where it's seamless in the songs and the story. And for the most part, Across the Universe is uninspired, except for the I Want You, She's So Heavy sequence, which is of course, that's a Beatles song.
Yeah.
And it's done during when one of them is being drafted into the Vietnam War. And it's a fucking great sequence with like Uncle Sam soldiers like controlling their every movement and everything. It's brilliant. But the rest of it's very meh. It's not bad. It's just meh.
Just meh.
Yeah. Then I watched The Public Enemy from 1931 with James Cagney. I think his first name is James. It's like a gangster movie, like one of the first gangster movies. Happened during when like Al Capone was at his height and everything. So it was very fresh in everyone's mind. It's really good. I enjoyed it. It's a classic movie, you know. It's a 30s
very
movie.
Gangsta.
Yeah, it's a 30s movie, so it's not really going to wow you too much.
Yeah.
But it is really good. Then I watched John Carter because I was talking to our friend John Clark, and he was talking about how it is decent and deserved a lot better attention than it got.
That's
most
always
people,
what I heard about it, too.
Yeah, most people know that John Carter flopped, and it definitely deserved not to flop. Kind of like The Lone Ranger. Other than the whitewashing of Tonto, The Lone Ranger was a solid movie, but it just didn't make box office money. John Carter's similar. Really, the only weakness in it is the lead actress in it who plays the princess. She's kind of weak for the most. She's not bad. She's just not as strong as everyone else. But yeah, that was a solid movie. Then I watched The Prom, which is a movie about a bunch of Broadway stars who go to a small Indiana town where they canceled prom because one of the students is a lesbian and they don't want to allow her to be in prom, so they just canceled the prom altogether. and these Broadway stars.
It's very, very high up there in ridiculousness.
Yeah, and it doubles down too. Like the whole reason they go is to to work on their branding. They're not doing it out of the goodness of their heart. They're doing it for themselves.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a running theme, and it pokes a lot of fun at celebrity, which I really liked. So you know, I really enjoyed it. There are some, you know, backlash from James Corden playing a gay character when he's straight, which I understand. He is a little flamboyant, and he's also straight, so I do understand that. But I also think that you know, it's a fine movie. It's not great, but it's fine. Meryl Streep is great in it. Keegan-Michael Key's great in it, which, you know, I'm just glad to see he's getting more roles lately. He's in that movie Jingle Jangle that came out too. He's getting bigger roles too, which is nice because I kind of felt bad for him since Jordan Peele really took off and he just kind of was in the back.
Yeah, he's also getting more roles where he doesn't have to be just a comedic actor the whole time too. Which
Oh yeah,
nice.
he's getting like he's pretty dramatic in this. I mean, it's a comedy movie, so there are comedic bits, but he's by no means is he like the funny man. He's just a big side character, but a side character that's more straight. Then I watched Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, which is Chadwick Boseman's final film, and has Viola Davis in it. And oh man, it is something else to watch because you can see just how much he knows what he's saying is about him in the entire thing. Like he's feeling that character because his character is all about like how he thinks life isn't fair and everything, and how he deserves better than his life and everything. And oh my God, it just drives home, you know, in hindsight, it really drives the character home knowing that he filmed this while he was dying from, I think it was pancreatic cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an incredible film. I highly suggest people check that out.
I was gonna watch that before instead of Loving, but I was like, I'll just watch Loving. It's a little bit shorter.
Yeah, and there's also on Netflix. There's also a great behind the scenes featurette about Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and I thought the whole thing was going to be like them talking about Chadwick Boseman. There was a small segment on it, but it was more about the film, which I'm glad because I'm sure Chadwick would. I mean, obviously, I don't know him. I'm just speculating since he kept this whole.
You
thing
would imagine
secret.
that he would have wanted it that way. Yeah.
Yeah, like a nice little like 2 to 3 minute memoriam segment. But then the rest be about the film and the other actors and the other artists that are involved, and that's exactly what it is. So I suggest that as well. Then I watched Fiddler on the Roof. We'll get to that in a second. Then I watched Atonement because people keep bugging me about Atonement. And I had seen about 45 minutes of it from my time working at a movie theater and just hated it. Not because it's a bad film, but just because I hate movies where the plot can be completely avoided by one person using logic. Like it could be anyone else, anyone in the entire film. Just use logic and speak up, and the whole film could have been avoided. That is Atonement in a nutshell. The plot of it is this like 13-year-old girl tells a lie about James McAvoy's character and says that he was raping someone because she saw him having sex with his sister and was confused about that, and then also saw a note that was kind of naughty and raunchy from him to her sister that she also didn't understand. So then she just made up this whole thing in her head and got the guy sent to World War II. And yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. And if just the whole he was arrested because of what she said. Nothing else. She brought the letter to their attention, but that's just hearsay. Like it would not hold up even in a court of law back then. Like it just doesn't make sense. If the cop was just like, okay, this little girl's saying that, but we don't have anything else to go on. Like even the victim says that she didn't see who it was. Spoiler alert: the victim was not raped. She just didn't want people to know that she had sex. And it's just dumb. The whole thing could have been avoided if just one cop was just like, you know what, this isn't enough for a court case.
I'm gonna do my job.
Yeah. Instead, it's just like, oh, this rich girl taught this working class, or said this working class man did this thing, but has zero evidence other than a letter where he uses the C word, and that's it. It's just like, It's just frustrating.
Yeah.
The movie is beautifully made and it's fantastically made, it's well acted and everything, but the whole plot could be avoided if one person just went, hey, hang on a minute. What if she's lying?
She's probably lying.
There's a good chance she's lying. Yeah, yes, we should do our due diligence and look into this, but she could be lying.
Yes, we see her standing here, but she's lying.
Yeah. Then I watched Absolutely Anything, which is Robin Williams' last movie. He voiced a dog in it. And it's with Simon Pegg and Kate Beckinsale, I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
And it's about this guy who gets the powers to do absolutely anything by aliens who are seeing if he's going to use it for good or evil in order to destroy the planet or not. It's fine, you know.
Yeah.
It's got funny moments. It's mostly just kind of a throwaway movie. But yeah, then I watched Dr. No, the first James Bond movie. And I was gonna be like, "Hey, all the first 20 James Bond movies are on YouTube for free with ads right now. Might as well watch all of them." Then I watched Doctor No, and I said, "Might as well just watch all of them spread out significantly because I don't know if I can handle that much James Bond in a short amount of time."
Don't blame you.
And it's just funny what was considered action movies back then. I know they didn't have too much to go on, but
Yeah.
that was it was good.
They couldn't Michael Bay it back then.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was a good movie, but you could tell they were certainly limited in what they had. Also, they had an actor, an Asian face, which was not surprising, but a little disappointing.
Yeah.
Just because they had Asian actors throughout the rest of the movie, so why couldn't they just got one of them? But it was the 60s. Not forgiving it, but I was not surprised.
Yeah.
Then I watched a movie with Jermaine Clement called Humor Me, where Jermaine Clement does an American accent. And as far as I'm concerned, that's the best part of the movie because I've never heard him do an accent other than his own.
I can't imagine him doing an accent.
Yeah, he's pretty good at it. It's about this playwright whose wife leaves him because he is kind of stopped writing and he's trying to find himself and moves in with his dad and everything. It's a solid movie. Again, I'm not watching great things to get to 366.
You're trying to get to that 366.
Then I watched Marnie, which is an Alfred Hitchcock movie, 1964. Also has Sean Connery in it, Tippi Hedren. It was filmed in our area, Chester County area.
Heck yeah, look at us.
Yeah, look at us.
We're famous.
And Sean Connery started off with American accent, and then it slowly faded in and out between American and Scottish, back and forth. It's a good movie, but I feel like it's a little too long. Hitchcock was kind of off of his high with, I think, both Psycho and The Bird, so he was just like, I can do anything, and then left things in there that were not necessary.
Yeah.
But other than the length, it's a solid movie. Then I watched Spree, which is a movie with Joe Keery from Stranger Things, where he plays like an Uber driver who's trying to be famous. So he starts killing his passengers and live streams it all. And
makes sense.
It is full of cringe and Generation Z shit that's annoying. And just exaggerates the whole we're obsessed with social media thing.
Yeah.
To a point where it's just not realistic. But it did have some entertaining qualities to it. Joe Keery's great in it. It's interesting seeing him in anything other than his character on Stranger Things, which is my favorite character in Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Because it has the most depth. But yeah, that was Spree. That's on Hulu if you want to check it out. It's a solid movie, but it's also a cringe-worthy movie.
So get ready.
Yeah. Then the last movie I just watched this afternoon, The Professor and the Madman. Listen to this problematic cast. Sean Penn and
ready.
Mel Gibson.
Oh.
Yeah, so Sean Penn and Mel Gibson are in this. Both are great in it, of course, but they are problematic actors. If you don't want to watch it because of that, completely understand it. But it is essentially about the guy who edited the Oxford English Dictionary in the 1800s and the mental asylum patient who helped him do it.
Yeah.
And really, you could take either of those characters and interchange them with Mel Gibson or Sean Penn, and they would both be pretty good with them. But Mel
I
Gibson.
wonder how they decided that. They were like, yeah, well, you're gonna be this one instead.
Well, Mel Gibson's character is Scottish in it, and
Okay.
from Braveheart, we knew he could do a Scottish accent, so they were probably like, "Hey, let's do that." Mel Gibson's probably better in it. I think Sean Penn kind of goes a little too over the top in some scenes, but it's still pretty solid in it. Overall, it is a okay movie. A little too long, and the only thing I fault is the editing because it just stretched out more than it needed to.
Yeah.
But that's all I watched for this week. Hopefully next week's the last week that I have a whole bunch of movies to talk about, and then we'll get back
Unless
to
we're
normal.
going for another 365 the next year.
No, thank you. No, thank you.
Only 5 years at a time.
Yeah, really. 2025 is the next time I'll do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all I got. Do you have any news to discuss?
I do have a slight bit of news that I found today. So MGM wants to sell its entire movie studio, which is a crazy thing to think about.
It is.
So apparently they have not been doing very, very well at all this year,
they haven't
as you can imagine.
I mean, they haven't been doing well for a while. When's the last time you saw a big blockbuster with the MGM logo in front of it?
Yeah, besides, like James Bond movies, they're literally trying to sell all their assets, that
I just hope Disney doesn't take it.
Yeah, I really hope not either. It seems though that they are kind of even struggling to get anybody they're very confident that they can sell their stuff to a streaming service, but I guess let me figure out. They're trying to value themselves at 5.5 billion, which I mean probably sounds about right, obviously, but nobody's really reaching for it. So they've been trying to sell themselves to these different streaming services, but nobody's really grasping at the straws, you know. And I don't even technically know if Disney's allowed to get it to further their monopolizing.
I hope not. I hope there's laws in place. Unfortunately, lately our government has been for monopolies, which is very un-American in my opinion. And that's not any administration. That's been going on for the past 20, 30 years. It's not like a left or right thing. The entire government's been pushing monopolies. I mean, now theater studios can own theater chains, which was illegal for about 70 years and is now no longer illegal, which I'm a little worried about, but we'll see.
Yeah, so if we've got that, when obviously it will happen, or if it will happen, we shall find out in the near future. But hopefully, for me and Mike's fingers at least, we're crossing themselves. That sounds weird. But anyway, so who else could really be the competitor against Disney and them? I mean, obviously like Netflix, maybe I would say Hulu, but Hulu's owned by Disney.
Yeah.
So HBO Max is up there probably.
Yeah. That actually brings me to my next bit of news. If you got a...
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it.
So, Legendary Films, which is the film, or the studio that made Dune, Warner Brothers is distributing, but Legendary made Dune. They are suing Warner Brothers to make sure that they get an exclusively theater release. Obviously, it hasn't gone through yet, so it's whether or not that happens remains to be seen. But it's exactly what I predicted, is that there would be a lot of lawsuits and litigation by different studios to try to prevent a simultaneous release. And I hope that every single one works.
Yeah.
But yeah.
See, because we did talk about this a little bit ago, and had a 45-minute talk about it.
Yeah.
They basically, Warner Brothers didn't really reach out to all the people, all the creators of movies and stuff. They were just like, yeah, we're pushing all this shit to HBO.
Yeah.
And obviously a lot of people were pissed about it.
Yeah. They thought that just because they're distribution, they could do whatever they want with distribution. But in contracts, there's a lot of legalese that says, hey, you need to do this for this long and this for this long before you can do this.
Yeah.
So if certain films have those contracts, then they can pursue legal action, which obviously Legendary has. And honestly, I had a conversation with one of my coworkers today. I love him to death. He's a great guy, but he said he wants he would rather be able to see Godzilla King of Monsters, or Godzilla versus Kong rather, at home the day it's released than wait a few months to watch it in theaters. And to that I say, you don't fucking deserve
Nay.
movie theaters.
Yeah.
I love him to death, but that I almost lost my shit when I heard. Well, not really.
Yeah, one of
Metaphorically.
my buddies, we actually just talked about this literally yesterday before I went live. We were talking about how movies, like, you know, it's a business that needs to be a thing, and we were talking about the whole discussion that we talked about last week about how pissed off we are. Zach doesn't go to the movies that often.
Smiley McGee?
Smiley McGoo. Yep.
Ugh.
And he doesn't go to the movies that often, right? But he is all for movies, like, still thriving, and, like, he's pissed at people who think that they shouldn't be a thing. Because, like, he will go to those Marvel movies that are, like, huge and shit like that.
That's the thing. People who don't want movie theaters to be a thing only don't want that because they're expensive, which I get. But guess what? If you just fucking wait, it's going to be cheaper. The people you're paying ticket prices to see it early. You're not paying to see it. You're paying to see it early. It's exactly why like digital rentals are $20 when they're released on streaming services. Like it's not just a movie theater thing. Movies will always be expensive, and that is because they cost millions of dollars to make. You don't have to go see it.
Yeah, so he's all for, like, you know, us thriving, but he only goes to the movies like once a year, if that. So it's
I
pretty
forgive him
weird
for
to
not
see
being
the
a movie
dynamic.
theater person then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the last movie we both saw together was Sonic, so that was we need to go see a different movie at this point.
I was worried. That was almost the last movie I saw. I saw that the week before everything shut down. But then that weekend, I also went and saw 4 other movies. So Sonic was almost the last thing I saw in theaters. But then I
don't know which one specifically was the last one I saw, but I definitely know it's the last one I remember seeing with a buddy.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, besides the ones we saw together.
Oh, man. I got to see movies more.
I'm scratching my neck right now.
I'm jonesing.
God damn.
But yeah, that's all the news I got. You got anything else?
No, I think that's it.
All right, let's jump into Bitty Bitty Fiddler on the Roof.
Traditions. Without our traditions, our lives would be as shaky as a fiddler on the roof.
Fiddler on the Roof. In pre-revolutionary Russia, a Jewish peasant contends with marrying off 3 of his daughters while growing anti-Semitic sentiment threatens his village. Directed by Norman Jewison. Please let me keep going, please.
No. You said sediment, not sentiment. Yeah.
Fuck.
Sediment, I believe, has to do with the ground, but.
I mean, who knows? Well, we'll talk about it in this review.
Sorry, that's the only reason I snickered. I wasn't going to stop you, and then you said,
man.
"Hold on."
I
was
felt
like,
so good and confident. I'm like, Mike,
Yeah.
don't stop me now. I feel Freddie Mercury's rising in me right now. This is insane. Well, that can be misconstrued too. Never. Oh God.
Yes, it could.
I don't even want to do the rest of this.
Okay. Do you want me to do
Yeah,
it?
go ahead.
Okay. Directed by Norman Jewison, written by Shalom Elichem, Arnold Pearl, and Joseph Stein. It is starring Topol, Norma Crane, Leonard Frey, and Molly Picone. And that is Fiddler on the Roof. It was nominated for several Oscars. It won 3. Let's see what it won. It won Best Cinematography, Best Sound, and Best Music Scoring Adaptation and Original Song Score.
I wonder what that was up against. actually.
I think, back then, I think all music categories were put in the same because,
Yeah.
I don't know. John Williams, I didn't think he did it. Maybe it was something else. Maybe that's weird. I'm not sure what that's about. I'd have to do more research. But it was up against, Best Actor, Topol was nominated for Fiddler on the Roof. He lost to Gene Hackman in The French Connection. Leonard Frey, who played Mottel, he was up for supporting actor. He lost to Ben Johnson in the Best Picture show. So solid films to lose to.
Yeah.
Fiddler on the Roof was up against Summer 42, Last Picture Show, French Connection, and Nicholas and Alexandra for cinematography, and won. Then it was also up against... it was also nominated for director with Norman Jewison. Lost to William Friedkin of The French Connection. Again, understandable. And then... Where are you? Best music. It won against Tchaikovsky, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, The Boyfriend, and Bed Knobs and Broomsticks. And then I feel like there was one more. Yeah, Best Sound. It won over Diamonds Are Forever, Mary Queen of Scots, Koch, and The French Connection, which is, I mean, this had great sound, but The French Connection also has great sound.
Yeah.
So that's saying something.
French Connection was a killer movie, so it's understandable.
Yeah. But I just want to say one thing. This movie slaps.
This movie did slap.
It's
My
like
cheeks are red. And I've got 4 of them.
every single song in this slapped. Like, I
Yeah.
loved it. And I'm not one to use slang that I'm way too old to be using. But like, it's just, I loved every single song in it. I loved every single musical sequence. And obviously, the high points are If I Were a Rich Man. I love that sunrise sunset song. There's a whole bunch of beautiful songs in this, but in my opinion, the bottle dancing sequence at the wedding is the best musical sequence ever shot ever.
Just to look at, too.
Just to look at. Like, they're not singing in that; they're just dancing.
They're
but
all
holy
in
shit,
sync, killing it with bottles on their heads.
they're balancing bottles on their head. The not only are they in sync, the camera is moving with them as they're like kneeling on the ground. Like it moves left and right and back and forward with them. It's just a remarkable, especially for that time, a remarkable sequence.
Yeah. This whole movie kind of blew me away. I was weary and not weary at the same time with the runtime. But like, I had a free day. I wasn't really irking about it in any way. So
much so that you watched another movie before.
Yeah, I watched
us
another
record
movie right before,
late.
and I was I was still like excited to actually watch this movie. I know this movie was very popular, especially with like Jewish culture and everything like that. Obviously, I myself am not Jewish, but I know about how much people love this movie, and I did want to jump into this. And honestly, it slaps.
It's a bop.
It was a really, really heartfelt story. Not only between what is his name, Tevye, and him, just like his relationship with his family and with his beliefs in the religion that he believes in, and the story that comes from the beginning of where he begins. He's a milkman, and then eventually down the road, which we'll get to later, but eventually down the road when they have to separate from their homes and move on with their lives. It's just a huge emotional roller coaster in between all that, and it was really cool to hear all the songs that came from that. As well, and how really freaking good they all were. It's insane.
Yeah, I agree. And my only complaint really is the runtime. Like, it didn't feel like 3 hours, but it did feel long.
Yeah.
Specifically towards like right in the middle of, well, not in the middle, maybe in the middle, but like there's just parts where it's just like, okay, I could stand this to be a little quicker, but that didn't make it any less good.
Yeah.
Like, it felt long, but I was still enjoying it.
Throughout it was all entertaining. It did just feel like, for me, it was that 2/3 mark, like in between.
About the hour
that
mark,
felt a little, That's where it felt long. But I mean, again, it was very entertaining. It's mainly the energy in this whole movie, especially with Tevye's character and just how uppity and happy and just goofy he is, and just how he is with the people around him. So like the energy definitely helped keep the movie from feeling way too long.
Oh yeah.
Even though it was 3 hours, but it didn't feel like it at all.
Yeah, I would 100% agree. And I used to edit wedding videos all the time, and I'll tell you, Jewish weddings they look like they're so much fun. I love traditional Jewish music. That like, and the ways they dance with it. It's just a high energy dancing. And one thing that a lot of the sequences in this, unlike other musicals, were just dancing. They weren't necessarily songs, which you have movies like Les Mis, which is a masterpiece. Well, the play, the movie's really good. I know some people, but the whole opera of Les Miserables is a masterpiece. But it's singing nonstop.
Yeah.
Whereas this, they take breaks to dance, like the bottle dance, the dance after he promises Laser Wolf his daughter's hand in marriage.
Also, since we're right there, what a name.
Laser Wolf,
Laser
right?
Wolf.
Right?
The whole time he's like, I'm marrying you to Laser Wolf. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, have me marry Laser Wolf, please. Holy crap.
Yeah. And they kind of have like that dance battle with the Russian soldiers there. And it's just so high energy that it's just absolutely full of life, which was probably my favorite thing about it is just it's even with all like the persecution that they go through, they're all full of life, and they're all hilarious, especially Tevye. Like he always, one of my favorite bits he did is they were talking about the Tsar, the Russian Tsar, which in Anastasia eventually gets murdered, but the Russian Tsar was also persecuting Jewish people. I don't know if it's the same Tsar, but it's the same family for sure. And every time they would talk about the Tsar, they would spit while he had open milk, and he would always just like cover it with his hands, cover the open milk while they would spit, and it happened like 3 or 4 times. And he just looked at them like, "What are you doing?" and it's just really, and he just has a lot of really great comedic moments, like when he promises Motel his daughter's hand in marriage, and I forget exactly what he says, but Motel's just like, you won't regret this. He's like, I won't regret this. I won't regret this. I'm regretting it already.
just like the way he's like yelling and just like, I won't regret this. I won't regret this. I'm doing it already.
But like his voice is shaking because the handshake is
staring at him.
Yeah, it's so funny, and it's like even his asides with God when he's like praying to God on what he should do, which obviously like his family doesn't see, but even those are funny where he's just like, it's tradition, but also maybe she should do this.
It's and that since we're on that topic there, that when he had that side to side talk with God was easily my favorite part each time it was happening in the movie, because the way they did it too. So not only was it just a funny, goofy conversation that you just thought they were actually having. I mean, clearly he was kind of having it in his head. But every time he did have that conversation in each scene, you could see the distance of the situation that he's in. He's like, he puts himself away and talks to God. But like clearly it's like he's talking to him in his head or something like that. But like you'll see them, they're face to face having a conversation, and then like once they're like, well, what do you think? And then he's like, what do I think? And then
he's like
you
50
see him
yards
60 feet away talking to God about it.
It's a jump cut, but it works. It has a purpose, and it shows you that they're not in that conversation just to avoid any confusion if there was any. And it also makes it kind of funny because it is like, what do I think? And
because like he's like, what do I think? And you're thinking he's still talking to them, but then that cut happens where like he's like 60 feet away, and you're like, oh, he's having that God talk right now.
He's having that God talk right now. But yeah, this was honestly like, I admit, even though I love classic movies, I do have a little bit of prejudice of the way they look. Where like I'm not as eager to see them if they look old, and this looks old. It looks like it's from the cinematography is beautiful, but just the film stock they use, the colors they use, the wardrobe they use, it does look old, which it's supposed to. It's supposed to be in
1903.
Yeah,
so
1903 before
it makes
cars
sense.
were widely used, and so it definitely makes sense. It's just, I have this prejudice towards it, which is why I put this off for so long, even though my family loves it.
Yeah.
And like we said at the beginning, it slaps. It's just it's just wonderful. But I didn't expect it to be. I knew it was going to be like a celebration of life just from every song. Like If I Were a Rich Man, he's a poor man, but he sounds pretty happy about it, and just like even just dreaming of being a rich man's bringing him happiness.
Yeah.
Matchmaker is a really happy song. Sunrise Sunset not so much, but it's still a beautiful song, and it's just, I didn't expect it to be so silly in a way, because it was pretty silly. Even in If I Were a Rich Man, he's feeding the chickens, and one of his verses he's just imitating the chickens. You go,
just scaring the shit out of them.
It's just it's so silly, and I love it.
Yeah, it's a very very goofy movie. Very I didn't expect anything bad from this, but like very kind of surprising in a way, you know, just how good it actually was for me. And I feel like we're using that word a lot. Like, you know,
well, I mean, you're not. I grew up on musicals, so I've always been a fan of them. Not as much as my family, because you know they love like My Fair Lady and Oklahoma and all those old those musicals, which I don't like.
Yeah.
But you didn't grow up in them at all, so like you have only really.
I've only experienced a good handful of them.
Yeah, I've only ever heard you talk about Les Mis, The Producers, which you just watched not that long ago.
Which I just watched, yeah. And then if I had seen any others, it would maybe be like not even on two hands counted.
Yeah.
So like this one also blew me away on how well done it was.
Yeah.
And how more than likely I'll probably watch it again at some point in my life.
Oh yeah, it's
because
it's just a really fun movie. Even with the subject matter, like obviously, it's no secret unless you are an idiot conspiracy theorist that thinks the Holocaust never happened, with zero evidence suggesting that it did not happen.
Yeah.
But like everyone knows that Jewish people have been persecuted so much throughout history, you know, from ancient Egypt until World War II, even after World War II, they're just constantly persecuted. But to see this where like they're being forced out of their homes and they still tried to have good spirits about it.
Yeah.
Was heartwarming, and just kind of seeing how the migration of Jewish people happened. You know, some people went to Yugoslavia, which is now the Czech Republic, and another country, and others went to the U.S. I think one person said they were going to England or something. I don't know, but it was just to see them in trying to be optimistic, even with like the worst thing happening for no reason other than that they're Jewish.
Yeah,
was remarkable.
Yeah, I would honestly. I mean, it obviously wasn't like I don't think a holiday film, but I would honestly probably watch this maybe like every other year or so if I really, you know, if I was really feeling up to it, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, at least up until the bottle sequence. The bottle dancing. I mean, it's good after that, but that was just like, I was amazed at the bottle sequence, just the way it was shot more than anything. It's probably to some people not that impressive, but it's just knowing how films were shot back then. It was so unique and compelling. The colors were beautiful. The deep blacks of their suits, mixed with the kicking of the dirt every time they took a step. It was just wonderful. It was probably all by accident too, but it was just wonderful.
Just definitely little details that made the whole thing so much better.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I don't got anything else to say about this.
Yeah, I mean, other than really the relationships that he had with his kids and stuff like that, which were all great, and his decision making through that were just really funny moments, but also how caring he was to like kind of not really, to betray his kind of way of how religion was going then, but also have his daughters be their own people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the whole thing, even in the beginning, one of the first chorus pieces is the song Tradition, where like they'll say something and then the chorus is just tradition, tradition.
And it really did set like a major piece throughout the rest of the film.
And just the question of when do we force tradition on our kids and when do we let them decide for themselves, that whole thing. And maybe the traditions are a little outdated for the world we live in now. And it's just, it's an incredibly thoughtful piece while also showing massive respect for the tradition of Judaism.
Yeah. So, other than that, that's really all I've got as well.
Yeah. So let's get into the judgment. Glenjamin Button, this was your pick, so that means you go first with the judgment. Is this a little shelf boy?
I don't think this is any surprise that I personally think it will definitely be a shelf boy. Well, there's just no hiding it at this point.
Yeah. Well, if this were a shelf boy, yabba dibba 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 dibba, it would absolutely be a shelf boy. Other than really the only bad thing I have to say about it is the length, and even that is not a massive, hurdle for me to get over.
Yeah, it's not a very big take back for you.
I'm used to watching 3-hour movies. Maybe in the theaters when I couldn't pause it to go to the bathroom, I might have had an issue. Even then, I probably wouldn't have had an issue.
Luckily, they even had an intermission in the middle.
Yeah, bring back intermissions in movies.
Yeah,
that's
for real.
Because remember when we saw Hateful Eight, the 70mm roadshow, and we forgot there was an intermission. We're like, oh yeah,
what do we do with our hands?
But yeah, this is absolutely a shelf boy, with the likes of Handmaiden and Apostle, and that brings us to our plugs for next week. Glenn, tell the little children what they should check out next week.
All right, so we put this one off, and I'm going to talk about it now. So, we had our opinions about the first season of Mandalorian, okay? Mm-hmm. And the start of the second one also kind of had its problems.
100%.
But then it really kicked in. This, like, the good second half of the second season of Mandalorian really fucking kicked ass to me.
100%. I 100% agree.
And I assume anybody who doesn't have Disney Plus obviously hasn't seen Mandalorian yet. So, if you don't, I apologize for that, and I understand at the same time. But if you've got that free month trial somewhere hiding in your back pocket, I would full-heartedly recommend to jump on this now, or wait. But now is definitely the best decision to make it and crank out the 2 seasons of Mandalorian, because the season finale of 2, holy shit.
Oh,
was
100%,
it good?
100% agree.
And it, yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
It's that good.
That's an ancient language in the Star Wars universe. Decipher it, and you'll understand what I'm saying. But yeah, that's my plug. Is basically the season finale, or just watch Mandalorian all together so you can experience what everybody's freaking out about. Try to watch it as soon as possible, because everybody was spoiling it day one, like being assholes about it.
I fucking hate those people.
Yeah. So
those people are the same people that don't like movie theaters, so they can fuck off for all I'm concerned.
Straight wieners.
So yeah, Mandalorian, all of it, but primarily season 2.
Primarily that
show
finale
would be a masterpiece if that arc happened in season 1 without the filler episodes. However, I will admit now, with Bill Burr's character development, in hindsight, that one episode with Bill Burr was needed. I'm hoping that throughout the time, other episodes become more needed in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, 100% turnaround, really, in my opinion, for that show. My plug for this week is going to be another film podcast. And honestly, it's a film podcast idea that I wish I had come up with. Because it is
time to go back in the past and take it. Come on.
So there is this British comedian named Brett Goldstein, and he loves movies. He loves films. He loves talking about films. Apparently, that's all he ever likes talking about with people, and it kind of annoys some people. But
for us,
so it's like me. It's like me, really. I couldn't care less about anything other than movies and maybe food.
Yeah.
But
well, I mean, that shit's delicious.
Yeah. He has a podcast called Movies to be Buried with Brett Goldstein. That's the full title. And he essentially interviews fellow comedians and actors, and so far they've all only been British, and I think that's just because he's a pretty small podcast at this point.
Yeah.
But like he has guests like Will Poulter, Nish Kumar, if you know who that is, Aisling B, if you know who that is, James Acaster, if you know who that is.
Oh, James Acaster is amazing.
Did I tell you to watch James Acaster? Or you just know this?
Oh, I found him on Netflix.
Oh, we are lovers then. We
I
are
actually just watched him this weekend.
James
again,
Acaster is my favorite comedian. He is my favorite comedian.
Yeah, he's hilarious.
But yeah, he has an episode on this I suggest you check out. But so essentially, he just asks them, like, he gets to know their lives through their movies. Like, what's the first movie you ever watched or remember watching?
Mm-hmm.
What's a movie that you didn't really care about but you loved the experience of watching? Just movies like that. And then at the end, he asks them, what is one movie? Like, you're going to heaven, but you can only bring one movie. What movie is that?
Yeah.
And it's just a really cool way to get to interview comedians and actors while also talking about film.
Yeah.
So that is Films to Be Buried with Brett Goldstein, and that is on pretty much any podcast platform.
I will say one thing before we start, right? A little secret, a little behind-the-scenes secret. When I usually record the podcast, I say to the guest, oh, if you say anything you regret or you don't want it, or if it's too personal, just say, we'll cut that, and we'll cut it. But now we have witnesses. So what I will say is if I say anything, because I'm not good at small talk, if I get too personal or you say something, horrific or anything, we should have a safe word. And so you say Titanic, and then we stop.
Got it.
Okay?
Yeah,
all
that's
right.
fine with me.
So let's... hello, Will.
Hi, Brett.
Do you like films?
I do.
Convenient.
Yeah. It's a good start.
All right.
So those are our plugs for this week. It is streaming roulette because Netflix roulette is no longer...
It's been
We learned
buried
that
in a casket with movies.
It's been buried. Although watch now that's the thing. But until further notice, we're calling it streaming roulette. For those who don't know how it works, there is this totally real roulette board where we spin it 3 times, and then it picks a movie on any given streaming platform, and then we decide out of those 3 which we would rather watch. So without any further ado, let's get to spin. Ceresia. Oh boy. It is spelled Ceresia. Also known as Dosed on IMDb, but if you type in Ceresia, it will come up on there. It is from 2016, so it does fit into that.
That timeline.
Yeah, let me just double check where it comes on. Okay, that is going to be on Amazon Prime, it looks like. And it is a horror movie, drama thriller. An FDA drug trial goes terribly wrong when it incites a young artist to take both his new girlfriend and doctor captive. So yeah, that is it's an American film. So that is Dosed or Ceresia. I don't know why
what
that
the change there is, but
yeah.
yeah.
But it's a 5.2 on IMDb. That is our first movie.
Prescription for Love. Okay.
What?
That's the tagline under the movie.
Oh, God, okay.
Prescription for Love.
I hope we get something better than that. Okay, spin number 2. Up on the housetop. That's a 30-minute one. I don't want to do short films, so let's skip that. Joseph and Mary. Oh, God.
I can only imagine what that's
Literally.
about.
It is a Kevin Sorbo Christian movie, it looks like.
Keep forgetting to put movie at the end of this, otherwise I'm just going to get...
3.7 on IMDb. So, Joseph and Mary is a biblical drama that follows Elijah, a devout rabbi, during a time of unrest when King Herod and the great slaughter of innocent claims the lives of 2 boys Elijah had sworn to protect. It goes on for like another paragraph, but I'm not going to read it. That is Kevin Sorbo. Oh, streaming roulette, what have you done to us?
Wasn't he Hercules?
He was Hercules, and now he's only in Christian films.
Yeah.
A little aside, there is a great video on why Christian movies are terrible, and it's not because they are Christian, it's because they don't respect art, and I highly suggest everyone checks that out. I will send Glenn a little clip to input there.
Okay.
Because that's my second plug, which I wasn't going to pick until this came up. All right, spin number 3, please, 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 please be something palatable. Fox bat.
Fox bat?
Fox bat.
What?
Oh my God. What is also known as Wu Fuk.
Oh, woo, fuck.
In Hong Kong, a Chinese cook swallows a microfilm by accident and becomes a target. Oh God. Do you want to spin any of these one more time?
We know the rules. We already took out
Glenn,
that
why
short
are you such
film.
a stickler?
Oh, listen, I just just want our options to be somewhat annoying. This is terrible.
This is terrible.
I mean, I'm leaning Joseph and Mary all day.
Oh my God,
And
you
by
serious?
that, I'm not. Jesus. Okay, so I mean, Foxbat sounds the most interesting.
Okay, I kind of went behind your back and spinned it a fourth time. Do you want to know what I got?
Hold on, let me get Google. Yeah.
The 39 Steps, which is an Alfred Hitchcock movie. Legitimately was
Yeah.
the first thing I spun after that. And I don't know about you, but I think that's a sign.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what. What were the other 3 movies? Because they don't even count anymore.
Full disclosure, I have seen this, but I'd rather we rewatch it than any of that other shit that we got. Glenn, are you okay with this? Because if you're okay with this, this is what we're
yes.
doing. Okay. Thank you, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, and not Kevin Sorbo.
Beautiful, mysterious woman pursued by gunmen. Sounds like a spy story.
That's exactly what it is. Only I prefer the word agent better.
I've known what it is to feel lonely and helpless and to have the whole world against me. And those are things that no man or woman ought to feel.
The 39 Steps, that is going to be on Amazon Prime. A man in London tries to help a counter-espionage agent, but when the agent is killed and the man stands accused, he must go on the run to save himself and stop a spy ring which is trying to steal top-secret information. It's directed by Alfred Hitchcock, written by John Buchan, Charles Bennett, and Ian Hay, starring Robert Donat, Madeline Carroll, Lucy Mannheim, and Godfrey Turrell, and that is on Amazon Prime. And honestly, even though that broke the rules, that was a sign from Film Jeebus.
I'm trying to look
Film
at the
Jeebus that
other-
Kevin Sorbo loves and praises. He was just like, don't watch
Regardless,
this.
Kevin Sorbo wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, I know, but still.
It was it was going to be between Dosed, which had a budget of $75,000, so it was definitely a smaller film.
Yeah.
I might actually look into these, regardless. At least
Yeah.
Dosed.
Foxbat just because of the name, but
Yeah.
but anyway, that's our film, The 39 Steps, on Amazon Prime. Thank you everyone for listening and listening to us break our own rules. As always, you can check out our website, KeystoneFilmReview.com, on Instagram, Keystone_Film_Review, Twitter, Keystone_Film, Facebook, Keystone Film Review, YouTube, Keystone Film Review, and on Letterboxd, I am Mike KFR.
And I am Glenn KFR.
And that will do it until next week when we praise Film Jeebus for me breaking my rules and giving us a sign from Sir Alfred Hitchcock. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Baby.